Before we begin, I want you to remember one number, 80 million. That is the lowest estimate of how many people died because of one man's decisions. Not a war, not a plague. One man. His name was Mao Zedong, and this is how it happened. To understand Mao, you first need to understand China in the early 1900s. It was a country in chaos. The last emperor had just been overthrown. Warlords were fighting each other for control. Foreign countries were carving up Chinese land for themselves. The Chinese people were desperate for someone to fix it all. That desperation is exactly what Mao fed on. Mao Zedong was born on December 26, 1893, in a small farming village called Shaoshan in Hunan province. His father was a strict rice farmer who beat him regularly. His mother was a gentle Buddhist woman who tried to protect him. From the very beginning, Mao was rebellious, stubborn, and consumed by one thing: the desire to never be controlled by anyone, ever again. As a young man, Mao moved to Beijing and got a job at the university library. It was there he discovered the writings of Karl Marx, the idea that workers and peasants should rise up and overthrow the ruling class. For Mao, this wasn't just a political theory. It was a blueprint, a justification, a permission slip to take whatever he wanted. In 1921, Mao was one of 13 men who founded the Chinese Communist Party. He wasn't the leader yet. He was just one voice among many. But Mao had something the others didn't. He understood the peasants, the farmers, the forgotten people, and he knew exactly how to use their anger. By 1934, Mao's communist forces were surrounded and nearly wiped out by their enemies, the Nationalist Army led by Chiang Kai-shek. With nowhere to go, Mao made a desperate decision. He ordered his 100,000 soldiers to march. Not a short march, a 6,000-mile march across mountains, rivers, and freezing terrain. It took an entire year. When it was over, only 8,000 soldiers had survived. But those 8,000 survivors, they worshipped Mao like a god. And the legend of the Long March spread across China like wildfire. After World War II ended, China was plunged into full civil war. Mao's communist forces against the nationalist government. For 4 brutal years they fought. And then on October 1st, 1949, it was over. Mao's forces had won. Standing in Tiananmen Square in front of hundreds of thousands of people, Mao Zedong looked out at the crowd and declared, "The Chinese people have stood up." The crowd went absolutely wild. They had no idea what was coming next. Mao had one obsession after taking power: make China a superpower, fast. In 1958, he launched what he called the Great Leap Forward. The plan sounded simple: transform China from a farming country into an industrial giant in just 5 years. He ordered farmers across the entire country to stop growing food and instead build backyard furnaces to produce steel. Every village, every farm, everywhere, steel production would make China powerful, he said. What could go wrong? Everything went wrong. With no one farming, the land crops failed across the entire country. Food disappeared almost overnight. And when local officials reported the food shortages to Mao, do you know what happened? They were punished for spreading negative news. So instead of telling the truth, they kept sending false reports telling Mao everything was fine. Meanwhile, in the villages, people were dying in the streets. Parents were making impossible choices. And Mao kept exporting food to the Soviet Union to make China look strong on the world stage, while his own people starved. The famine lasted 3 years, from 1959 to 1961. When it was finally over, historians began counting the dead. The numbers were almost impossible to believe. Conservative estimates say 30 million people died. Other historians put the number at 45 million, some as high as 55 million in 3 years, from a famine that never had to happen. And Mao never apologized, never admitted fault. He called it a necessary sacrifice for the revolution. You would think after killing tens of millions of his own people, Mao would slow down, reflect, change course. Instead, in 1966, he launched something even more terrifying: the Cultural Revolution. His grip on power was weakening. People were quietly questioning him. So Mao decided to unleash China's youth against anyone who disagreed. He called them the Red Guards, teenage students given absolute power to hunt down teachers, professors, doctors, and intellectuals. These were China's smartest people, its future. They were beaten in public, forced to confess fake crimes, sent to labor camps. Some were killed on the spot. China's entire educated class and was destroyed in just a few years. By the early 1970s, Mao was old and sick. His body was failing him. He could barely walk. He suffered from a degenerative nerve disease and rarely appeared in public. Behind the scenes, his wife Jiang Qing and 3 allies, later known as the Gang of Four, were running the country in his name. China was exhausted, traumatized, broken, but nobody has dared say it out loud. On September 9, 1976, at 12 minutes past midnight, Mao Zedong died of a heart attack. He was 82 years old. He had ruled China for 27 years. The official announcement was made the next morning on national radio. Across China, millions of people wept in the streets. They had known nothing but Mao their entire lives. For many of them, he wasn't just a leader, he was China itself. So what do we make of Mao Zedong? In China today, his face is printed on every single banknote. His giant portrait still hangs over Tiananmen Square, watching over the city where he declared victory in 1949. The Chinese government officially says he was 70% right and 30% wrong. But historians around the world who have studied the numbers tell a very different story. Between the famine, the Cultural Revolution, and his other campaigns, somewhere between 40 and 80 million people died under his rule. More than Hitler, more than Stalin, more than any other individual in recorded human history, he wanted China to stand up. Tens of millions of people never got the chance to stand at all. If you made it this far, subscribe. Next video, we are going inside the final days of another monster. You won't want to miss it.